In May 1964, Alcatraz saw its most serious escape attempt, which turned into a bloody two-day battle. The United States Marines, Air Force, and Lieutenant General Joseph Stilwell were all involved. By the end of the riot, 2 officers and 3 prisoners were dead. Another 17 officers, 1 prisoner, were wounded. Later, 2 of the prisoners involved were executed. This event came to be known as the Battle of Alcatraz. D Block, where prisoners in isolation were held, had been remodeled with tool-proof cells. A concrete wall separated D Block from C Block, where most prisoners were kept. On May 2nd, Officer Bert Birch was stationed in the gun gallery above D Block, while Officer William Miller patrolled B and C blocks unarmed. Officer Cecile Corwin was assigned to D Block. Most prisoners were at work assignments, but about 25 were locked in isolation in D Block. Bernard Coy, a bank robber, was working in the B and C Block area. Taking advantage of Officer Birch moving into the D Block's gun gallery, Coy and fellow inmate Marvin Hubbard attacked Officer Miller when he let Hubbard in from the kitchen. They took his keys and unlocked the cell of Joseph Kretzer, who had tried to escape in 1941, and Clarence Carnes. Coy, greased up and naked, climbed the bars of the gun gallery using a homemade bar spreader. After breaking in, he overpowered Officer Birch and took his rifle, pistol, and ammunition. Coy threw the pistol and a key down to Kretzer, while he held Officer Corwin at gunpoint. Meanwhile, Kretzer and Hubbard entered D Block and freed several prisoners, including Sam Shockley, who was a part of the escape plan. At this point, Coy also released Myron Thompson from C Block, who had stayed behind due to feigned illness. The group captured 3 more guards as they entered the cell house, locking them in a cell with Miller. However, the uprising was discovered by a guard in the basement, who notified the armory. Realizing they didn't have the key to unlock the door to escape the cell house, the prisoners' plan began to fall apart. Several unarmed guards entered the cell house and were captured. Coy opened fire on a guard tower, wounding an officer. Associate Warden Miller entered the cell house but was injured when a gas grenade he was carrying exploded. The prison siren blared and the boats began circling the island. The U.S. Marines arrived on the island by 5 p.m., securing parts of the prison while guards attempted to regain control. During the night, some guards managed to enter the prison and free captured officers, many of whom were wounded. The next day, grenades were dropped through the roof, and rifle grenades were fired into D Block. The Marines eventually concentrated their efforts on C Block, where they believed the holdouts were.
The standoff was finally quelled on the morning of May 5th. Guards opened the door to the utility corridor and discovered the lifeless bodies of Bernard Coy, along with fellow inmates Kretzer and Hubbard. Their deaths marked a tragic conclusion to an event characterized by desperation and violence. The aftermath of the battle left a profound impact on Alcatraz, serving as a stark reminder of the lengths to which inmates would go to escape confinement. In the wake of the incident, 3 inmates, Clarence Carnes, Myron Thompson, and Sam Shockley, were held accountable for their roles in the escape attempt. They faced severe repercussions, including solitary confinement and further criminal charges. The trial gained widespread attention due to the brutal nature of the crime and the high-profile status of the defendants, drawing large crowds and intense media coverage. Public opinion was sharply divided, with some members of the public advocating for the death penalty as a necessary deterrent, while others argued that the sentences were too harsh given the circumstances surrounding the case. Numerous appeals were filed with the defense, citing potential procedural errors and the defendant's mental health issues, but these efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. Despite the ongoing national debate over capital punishment and the clemency pleas made by their attorneys and supporters, Thompson and Shockley's executions proceeded as scheduled, marking a grim and controversial chapter in the post-war justice system.